Robert and Kyle. Thanks to Mentors for Military for coming down here and taking your time to talk about the Ranger Regiment, the history, and all that we do. It's truly my honor to sit in here and talk with you guys today. It's been a ride. I remember coming in the Army. I was actually playing baseball in eastern Texas at a place called Angelina Junior College. And I remember calling my dad saying, "Hey, I don't think I'm going to be a professional baseball player." I worked really, really hard, but there were guys that were just better than me. He was like, "Good, keep studying. That's what you're there for." I came home that semester and I said, "Dad, I'm just searching for something different. I don't know what it is." And he was like, "Well, good. Search for a job. Go to work. You got to pay some stuff, right?" He's obviously my biggest hero. Is my dad, and my mom for sure. So I went to work, and then throughout the summer, I was like, "Hey, what do I do?" So I just stumbled upon a recruiting detachment, a Navy one.
Oh,
I was like, "Yeah, I want to be a Navy SEAL." I said, "What happens if I don't become a Navy SEAL?" Said, "You swab the deck, son." And I was like, "Well, that's horrible. You don't know your capabilities, right. Then you have no idea. Like no. You see these, mountain men that just can do phenomenal things, and you just don't know at that age what your body can do and not do." I walked out and walked into an Army one, and then I met Sergeant Brett, and he had jumped into Panama with 3rd Ranger Battalion, broke his back, and he's like, "Hey, you should be an airborne ranger." I asked him the same question: "What happens if I don't make it?" He's like, "You're going to go to the 82nd. I said, "Do they jump out of airplanes, do cool stuff too?" He said, "Yeah." I was like, "Well, that's better than swabbing the deck." Right? And I came home and said, "Hey, Mom, Dad, I think I want to join the Army." And we're like, my grandfather served in the Navy. My uncle served in Vietnam. My dad, worked for Shell Oil Company. Wanted me to exercise this muscle rather than this muscle. He's probably, good advice from a father. And I said, I'm gonna try this route. I think I went out the next day and got a flat top. Had long hair. But I was, if you're gonna do something, go all in. That's how we were. So I, joined, and I'm sure we're gonna talk about it, but I haven't looked back. I'm the kind of person that says I'm glad I did rather than I wish I would have. Sometimes that's got me in trouble. But at the end of the day, it has been a phenomenal ride. I've had the best leaders, the best people to emulate. I've had the best Ranger buddies that pick you up when you're down, that make you a better person today than you were yesterday. And that's what you would hope the Army is. And I found that in the Ranger Regiment, and it was phenomenal. My squad leader that just retired was that first real mentor for me. Craig Bishop was his name. Was that first real mentor. I was like, hey, I want to be like that guy. My first sergeant was a guy named Rick Merritt.
Wow.
The legend. And so these leaders that I had to look up to, I was just in awe every day of I don't know that I could ever reach the potential of what they do, but I'm going to try every single day because I don't want to let them down. Right? That was the environment that was in late 90s. That was the environment that those leaders created for me in this formation. It wasn't about a second-class citizen and I was a private and all those other things. It was like, hey, my job as a leader is to make you better today than you were yesterday. We're going to get you to Ranger School. You're going to get your Ranger tab because that's non-negotiable. And then you're going to come back and you're going to continue to lead. And you're going to grow, and we're going to send you to the board. We're going to send you to Jump Master School. You're going to do all these things. And all of a sudden, 9/11 happened. Right? 9/11 happened. And 4 days after that, my son was born. Right?
Wow.
4 days after that, my son was born. And it was, and they were there. They were like, hey, listen, this is war. This is what we're going to do. We don't know what we're going to do yet. We're here to take care of your family. We're here to do this. a guy named, my platoon sergeant at that time was a guy named Mike Masson. Phenomenal. He was the STB CSM. He was my first sergeant later on as well. At that time I had a phenomenal fire team that we had been working together for a little bit, and started deploying. And every time they took care of my family when needs arose. My family back home in Houston was phenomenal, helping us through all the. There was no such thing as a real Jort cycle back at the beginning. It was you're just this, that, and the other. I remember coming back from the invasion of Iraq. We went right to Africa. We did a training mission in Africa right after that, and then came home again, and then went back to Afghanistan. So I know I sped through some of those things, but that was like my initial impression with the leaders, and that's what I think is like the most important part is, because you can get a bad leader in a great place with all the money and funding and cool toys and all that stuff like that. But if they don't own the culture and drive the climate of how you live every day, it doesn't matter if it's the greatest place on earth. It can be really, really miserable. Mm-hmm. And they didn't do that for me. And that's what I've emulated over my last 25 years. I meet people where they're at, treat them with dignity and respect. I don't care where you came from. I don't care what color your skin is. Here's the task, condition, standards. I'm going to do it with you because that's how my leaders did it with me. And that's what I found in the Ranger Regiment. It was just this place where the culture of accountability, where people would come and hold you accountable, hold themselves accountable. So it wasn't the opposite of point to hawk, right? So this impossible mission, 6 June, 1944, hey, 2nd Ranger Battalion, after they were already, 2,000 folks, run through the gauntlet, specially selected, hey, Colonel Rudder, you're in charge. We're going to land your boats. You're going to climb up this cliff. You're going to spike the guns. You're going to do this impossible mission. And the leaders there didn't stand on the bottom of the point and say, get up to the top. They got to the beach under hellacious conditions after crossing the channel and then climbed up that cliff. The leaders did and said, follow me. On down the beach with 5th Rangers, that's where, General Cotto said, hey, Rangers lead the way off this beach. So that's how we got our motto and all those things like that. And, I think about, our motto in Sua Sponte, of your own accord. You're here because you want to be here, because you want to be led like you'd want your kids to be led through school. You'd want your kids to be led by a coach, demanding, accountable, and holding themselves accountable. All those things that you want in life. This is like the, my biased opinion, a melting pot for those things. And it has made me who I am. It's made me a better husband. It's made me a better father. It's definitely made me a better leader because of the people that I work for and work with. And every day when I come to work as the 75th Ranger Regiment Command Sergeant Major, there's like 3,600 people that I don't want to let down. That's how I feel when I get out of bed and I put my boots on the ground or my feet on the ground, and I'm walking into work every day. That's how I feel. There's a professional anxiety of, hey, there's 10 million things that I could do. Here are the commander's priorities. Here's what I have to say no to. Here's what I probably should follow up on. And I have to do all this for the 75th Ranger Regiment. It has been an incredible ride. I probably got a year left. Never be here again, other than in spirit and some picture on a wall that somebody won't remember me a long time ago.
Oh, I'm sure they will.
But that's okay. That's okay, right? It's about the young guys that carry the torch. So I don't care if they remember me or not. But what I care about is that legacy is things that you leave behind. So I don't want my legacy to be like I remember Brett Johnson, the Command Sergeant Major. I want people to remember like how they were treated and how they were led and what right looked like. And if they completely forget who I was, but if they remember that like that's how I led them and that's how I want them to lead, I'm okay with that. You can take my picture off the wall.
You just sat here, though, and named off so many different NCOs and influences that go all the way back to your recruiter.
Chuck Albertson, right? Another one. He was my first sergeant for like 3 years. These folks, and I haven't even, there's like hundreds of them. Even my commissioned officers that I've had were just unbelievable. So talk about selection. So RIP, the Ranger Indoctrination Program that I came through, was 3 weeks, and it was hang on,
A lot of PT.
hang on, and I was strong. I was strong. Probably why I left college and came here. I didn't feel like using this, like my dad asked me to, and use some of this. Right? It was great. The cadre that were before me were animals. Guy named Blum. I'll never forget him. He went on to another unit and did phenomenal, and is probably still doing phenomenal. And if he walked in here right now, I'd probably stand at parade rest when I'd see him, right? So that was, and Mike Hall, Sergeant Major Mike Hall was the RSM when I came in to the Army, and a guy named most people haven't heard of him. McChrystal was the RCO. Yeah. So two of our generation, two of the, probably one of the most influential leaders that you read the things that they wrote, and you hear the stories that how they led, and how can you go wrong?
Right.
So that's the era that I came into. So fast forward, we're here for Ranger Rendezvous in 2009. 2009, Colonel Carilla, Eric Carilla, who's now General Carilla, had just stepped in to be the RCO, and he walks up to me in the hangar and down on the airfield here, and says, "Hey, Sergeant Johnson, come here. I was a sergeant first class, just made the E8 list. Says, hey, you're gonna run RASP. You're gonna leave 1st Battalion and run RASP." I was like, "Sir, I don't know what that is." He's like, "Didn't exist. It did not exist." And we're, in the Army, we're really good at acronyms too.
Right.
And I've always been a guy of like, hey, if I don't know what it is, I'm going to ask you what it is. I'm like, "Sir, I don't know what that is." He's like, "We're going to revamp RIP and Rope, and you're going to run it." I was like, "Hey, sir, that sounds phenomenal. I'm about to take my platoon on one more trip. Can I come in like 4 months?" Sergeant Major Merritt, who was my first sergeant, who is now the Regimental Sergeant Major, is like, "Yeah, you can go on your trip." "Thank you, Sergeant Major. Thank you, sir." I will report to then Fort Benning as soon as upon completion. Right. So I came up and started RASP, and that was a whole change of, hey, I took it from RIP to RASP 1, our junior enlisted guys from E5 and below, to 8 weeks. 8 weeks, and they shoot 100,000 rounds over there. I mean, it's unbelievable. And then change some of the dynamics of rope into RASP 2, and that's probably where I started to become more of an organizational leader than I probably thought I was at the time. At the time it was like, there's nothing. There's 1st Battalion. Never heard of 2nd Battalion kind of stuff, immature stuff that you think about back then. And then you could see the formation at scale and what we were doing at that time, and how influential the decisions to let's professionalize our courses. Let's eventually make them a period of instruction through use of SOC. For long-term things, like there's money involved in that. There's all kinds of other things. There's just man, and you could see the impact that we have on the Army, and you don't see that when you're down in elbow deep in a platoon, and it really impacted me, like the leaders impacted me about who I was coming up here to the regimental headquarters. Just fascinated with running a forward deployed headquarters. Running the Army's Ranger Regiment, and then running our selection program, and there wasn't a week where now General Carilla, then Colonel Carilla wasn't like, "Brett, come see me in my office. Yeah. And how's it going? What's going on? And it's funny because I do the same thing now.
Do you?
Yeah. I walk right across the street. How's it going? What do you need? How are we looking? You know, the Army's changed the ACFT, and we were still doing push-ups, still doing sit-ups. No one's doing sit-ups. I'm like, hey, what's the correlation? Well, it's bad. Well, we should probably gather some data. If the Army's going to go this, we should probably change. You know, and then you're like, you know, it's just amazing to all the things that we get to dabble in and it all, but it all comes back to people. You know, you put the right people in the right place, and you trust them. You know, things are great. It really is.
Somebody must have seen that, obviously, in you in the very beginning and putting you into that RAF situation, because, I mean, you are taking something that was a shorter term, making it longer, that was very much heavy on PT and just trying to kill you and RIP, to RASP, which is a very different, it's both mental, physical,
that's right,
longer duration.
Cognitive coaches over there, all the things, the education piece. That course is phenomenal. Way better. Those young Rangers we got a graduation next Friday. Those 80 Rangers that graduate next Friday are 10,000 times better than anybody that has graduated back in RIP. Just our cadre that are over there, hand-selected from across the regiment to come here to serve. The first sergeant is like the best first sergeant in the 75th Ranger Regiment, gonna be a sergeant major, and it's like, hey, here is this baby, don't drop it, right? Make it better, feed it, do the right things. It's just.
How cool is it though to walk over there and know that you were kind of the founding father of that exact program that built? Now it's not probably the same, but you know.
See, now that I'm at this level, here's how I think it went. Colonel Carrilla and Sergeant Major Merritt are sitting down there like, hey, we're going to start this RASP thing, and they're like talking about it, and like, who are we going to get to run it? And they're probably having a couple beers, and they turn around, and I just happen to be in the.
That ain't how it happened.
I just happen to be right there, and they're like, "Oh, Brett Johnson, he's at the end of his platoon sergeant time. Let's just grab him." That's probably how it went, right?
Yeah, no, I doubt it.
Yeah, no, they're way more. Super fortunate. My time sitting over there for 2 years was so impactful to my professional development and growth as a non-commissioned officer. We bring in all the battalion commanders and sergeant majors to sit those boards. So as the RASP 2 NCOIC, I still have my green book from 2 years over there. And I would sit there and listen to the questions and answers and how I would answer it. And imagine that, 9-10 classes a year for 2 years straight. I missed a couple. But that was, I mean, you can't pay enough money to get that type of
kind of wisdom all funneled from the same place.
From the battalion commanders and sergeant majors when I was a young brand new master sergeant at that point. I was like, this is gold. Give me another pen, right? Let's write it down. Yeah, and I keep that stuff because it's super valuable.
Your next step actually kind of led you more even down, not just building the foundation for regiment by going through and developing RAS, but then you went on to J7 and Joint Chiefs at JSOC.
Yeah.
Another tremendous opportunity to apply your strategic skills, at that level.
Yeah, let's talk strategic.
Yeah.
So I was a company first sergeant after that. Deploying my company and doing the same thing we've been doing, which is great. Awesome. Great last 20 years of getting to do what everybody wants to go do. And then I make the E9 list. And Sergeant Major Albertson was the Regimental Sergeant Major. He says, hey, what do you think your next job is? And I was like, Battalion Ops Sergeant Major? And he's like, nope. And in the back of my head, I mean, he was my first sergeant for like 3 years. We've met, He's mentored me throughout my entire career, just like many others. And he says, nope, not Ops Sergeant Major. And I was like, oh, okay. In the back of my head, I was like, is this how they tell me I'm departing? Right? Now, and I was like, okay, let me throw out a lifeline. The Special Troops Battalion Ops Sergeant Major, not a line battalion, but like a different one. He's like, nope. And I was like, oh yeah, this is where it comes. I'm like, it's good. Like, I've had a great ride. Like, be respectful. Say Ranger Sergeant Major, and then like we'll figure it out from there, which is okay, because as you move up,
the pyramid gets tighter.
Yeah, and they're really, really good.
Right.
And he says, you're going to go to JSOC and be a director at Sergeant Major. And I was like, which one is that, Sergeant Major? And he's like, the J7. I was like, what does that do? He's like, it's like some training and stuff. And I was like, I can do training, I guess. It was way more than that. I ran the ellipse series exercise. Anyway, I won't dive into that stuff, but it was the biggest learning curve I've ever had in my entire career. But again, specially selected, well-trained soldiers, I show up there, and it's so my Ranger buddy up there is an 06, prior Ranger Regiment officer. So I'm partnered with him. My deputy is an 05. And then my other deputy, I had a civilian deputy that was a GS-14 retired Green Beret 06. And I was like, hey, but I don't know what any of this is. And they like handed me a whole bunch of documents, because at that point it's all policy, authority, things like that. So my learning curve was like through the roof. And they were there every step of the way to answer my questions, to help me out. And I'm the Sergeant Major. Like, typically you're supposed to be the kind of the subject matter expert.
Yeah.
Right.
And they were there to help me out. And again, like, there's just another example that like reinforced to me like the importance of like being a humble leader, taking the time to like help people out, to do the right thing, to listen, to understand, and not listen to speak. Because like, you don't know it all. Like somebody else probably is smarter than you. And 9 times out of 10 when I walk in a room, that's definitely the case. So I like to listen a lot. And it was just, again, reinforcing to go up there. And I spent 2 years traveling the world, doing a whole bunch of really, really cool stuff for another. So the first boss that I had up there, the general, was this is another guy that no one's ever heard of, Tony Thomas. Like, no one's heard of that guy at all. Just unbelievable leader. That was my battalion commander when 9/11 happened. So like, we've met, we've known each other for a long time. And just to watch him when he came back to 1st Battalion as the battalion commander, watch him throughout his career when he went to Sujitif and other things, and then now sit up there at his headquarters when he was running that command, to watch him lead an entire enterprise going through the rise of ISIS, the fall of Raqqa, and then another guy named Scotty Miller comes in right after that. So like, it's just like, does it get any better? Like, and those are 2 commissioned officers, like general officers, that were just phenomenal. And then you look at their NCO counterparts. A guy named Jeff Wright was his CSM, a Green Beret guy. His son served in the Ranger Regiment as an officer, served for me in 3rd Battalion. Phenomenal. And then right after that, a guy named DJ Blake, another phenomenal NCO that I was like, every time I would sit in his office, I was like, I'm sitting in his office. What do I need to ask him? What can I get from him? Or maybe I should just shut up and listen to him. And then I got selected to come to 3rd Battalion. And then, get paired up with Colonel Sellers was there first, a short period of time. And then I had the majority of my time was spent with a guy named Mike Klepper, who just stepped out of the 173rd. You want to talk smart, anticipatory, see the future, understand the operational environment, and apply resources and assets, and put leaders in places. That's like, Mike, like influential leader outside of like, anything in the world. Like, he was just phenomenal. And fast forwarded like my learning as like, cause he's a 2nd time battalion commander and I'm 1st time battalion CSM. I just try not to screw it up. I mean, I know what a Ranger is and I know like what Ranger NCO is supposed to do. I'm going to do that. But like, how do I take it to the next level? And he was that guy for me. So like, every step of the way of this last 25-year journey has been, oh, look at that, man, if I could just do that. And you just take on and take on and take on. It's just awesome.
You're making it sound as though you fell into them. Your career laid that foundation and you kept going over and over into it. So the opportunity is there. It's how when it presents itself, how you take advantage of it.
Yeah. So I got a couple things. So and this is like, guys make fun of me. I didn't get this from Eminem. So like before the record, I didn't get this from Eminem.
We got to worry about copyright or anything.
Nope, didn't get it from Eminem.
Okay.
I don't even listen to him. Sorry. So I've been doing it for probably, I don't know, 13, 14 years. You have to ask my wife. So my alarm clock goes off every single day. During the duty week, it's 4:00 on a normal duty week, and it says one shot, ONESHOT, and that's like my mental reminder every single day that like I don't get a repeat of today, right? When my feet hit the ground, I have this professional anxiety, like I have to perform today. I have all these people that look up to me. I have to live the Ranger creed, all these things. Like when I I have all these interactions, conversations with whomever, my boss. When I lay my head down on my pillow tonight, I can't restart. I can't redo today. I only have one portion of today. And because some days are difficult. Some days are difficult where you want to give other guidance, right? Or you want to say something else. You want to lessen that filter. Some days that happens, right? Maybe I have to go reattack for a little bit, right? But that is like my daily reminder. My daily reminder that I only have today. And so it says one shot. So I think Eminem had a song called One Shot, like that. And they were like, "Oh, you got that from Eminem?" I was like, "What? What are you talking about?" They're like, "Oh, I have a song." I was like, "No,
he stole it from you."
Yeah, he stole it from me. Yeah, that's like one of the things that is important to me. And then I have like this motto. So we were running a team leader course in the 3rd Ranger Battalion. I was forward deployed, and I called back to Sergeant Major Masters, Chris Masters, another like. He was my operations sergeant major, and I put, of all the like men that I've met in my entire life, of all those men that I've talked about previously, I put like Chris Masters like here, like he's phenomenal. Just lucky to like walk alongside him. And I called him and I said, "Hey, we're gonna run a team leader course. I've been thinking about this mental model. I want to call it like, because everything we do is like we go all in." Whatever it is, like whether you're doing physical fitness, whether you're a relationship, whether you're being a dad or whatever it is. I said, but I can't say all in because like then it's like not cool, right? So I was like, hey, can you go look up it like in Latin or something like that, something cool? What does that mean? So he comes back and it says omnis indu, OMNES indu. I believe him. I've never looked it up, but it means like all in, right? In Latin. And so that's like for the past like 5 or 6 years. When I talk to guys about their enlistment, about coming in, serving wherever you're going to serve into, you're here because you want to be here, sua sponte. You're searching for something that's bigger than yourself, or a brotherhood that's going to take care of you and take care of your family for the long haul, because we'll talk about that. I'm not the guy that goes around and says, hey, did you re-enlist yet? Are you in your window? I don't do it. Sorry, SMA, that's not me. I want people who want to be here. And they should want to be here because they have phenomenal leaders that they want to emulate and be like. I know that's not every place and all the time, but that's my thing. And I tell them, like, hey, if your enlistment's 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, whatever it is, I don't care. What I care about is that when you show up every day, you're all in. You're all in, whether we're doing a family brief, whether we're doing a podcast, whether we're going to the range, whether we're doing PT, whether you're leading PT. Be there. Be present. Be present in your life. There's too many distractions these days of phones and all these other things that people watch life pass by them, and it's like, man, you're missing it. Live it like you're doing today. So those are like my two things that I think about one every day, and then how my mental model, what I do.
You just mentioned a couple of things that I want to expand upon a little bit. So. One, I want to ask you about the what some leaders find in terms of being the imposter syndrome. And then secondly, I did want to share something very similar to your motto, which was actually a company used this statement that I think also fits very similar, which is be here now.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that.
Right. So that was very important, right? So when you're in the space, you don't have your laptop open. When you're sitting around a conference room and everything else, you don't have your cell phone.
Yeah.
You don't have, your notes that you're working on or something like that. You need to read some documents.
That's right. That's right.
You're here.
That's right.
You're listening.
That's right. I used to go brief the captain's career course here, and that's at the end of their course. I come talk to them about leadership. What about the Ranger Regiment? It was just about, hey, the company commander first sergeant relationship. You're about to step into these things, and every time when I walked in there, it's about 300 captains. They'd all have their computers open, and I would say, hey, your time isn't free. My time isn't free. I may say something that you like. I may say nothing that you like. But what I will tell you will do is you're going to close your computers and you're going to be here and listen. Because if I'm going to give you my time, you're going to give me your time. If you don't want to do that, it's fine. We'll leave. So I didn't say be here now. But it's interesting because, when I was the sergeant major, so their captains outranked me. They could have done whatever. But I could have walked out too, right? Yeah. I was there because I wanted to be there. I wanted to share some lessons with them.
Imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome. So I'm a simple person. So I put things in. I said it this morning at the promotion. So I have my 4 A's is what I call them. When I counsel leaders, I talk about my 4 A's. And I said, you can steal it, you can take it, you can do whatever you want, you can spin it around, you can put them in a different order. I don't care. They're yours. Run with it. I'm like, okay. I'm like, all right, now get out your pen and write them down. So you don't forget them. So my first one is authentic, to get after your imposter syndrome. You can see right through people who are fake, right? People who are just the uniform and the rank, and they're just trying to use their just what's my next position, what's my eval look like. Yep. Right? I never cared about it. I care what my uniform looks like, right? The Ranger standards, things like that, standards, discipline. But
the genuineness is what
genuineness, you can see it. You can think back in your career, even if you weren't in the military, you can think back in a leader, a person who is faking the funk. So as a leader, you got to be authentic. And what does that mean to be authentic? Hey, if you're not into what you're doing, you have any passion for it, move out, or find your why.
Yeah,
find your why. Because sometimes you got to. Sometimes you get caught in the daily grind of life and leadership and all these things, and you start to miss some stuff, and you got to kind of recalibrate yourself. And hopefully, you got a good Ranger buddy or a good somebody next to you. My wife will tell me in a heartbeat, hey, you're off your mark. So authentic is my first one that I talked to him about. Being accessible, right? Being accessible is incredibly important to me for a whole bunch of reasons. But think back to a time where you walk into your boss's office and you got to talk to him, or something happens, because no one comes to the boss's office and says, "Hey, I got to tell you something great." 9 times out of 10, it's hey, I didn't talk to you. But when you're talking to them and they're doing this, they're not even looking at you. Yeah.
Yes.
So so when I say accessible, everything is eye contact. I'm stopping what I'm doing, or I'm going to tell you hey, if you give me 30 seconds, you'll have my utmost attention. Or but my door is open. I'm an open book. I make myself accessible to my chain of command, to my peers and my subordinates, because I tell folks it's not about what you know, it's about what you don't know. So authentic, accessible, and then approachable. So you can't be the picture on the wall, and if you look mean, especially as a sergeant major, people aren't going to come talk to you. People don't want to break the threshold of our office. They're like, oh man, that's the RCO and RSM's office down there. If I walk down there, then I'm stuck. Or something, they're going to ask me some hard questions, probably, right? But I'm going to ask you some questions because I care. So I have to be accessible, authentic, accessible, approachable, because I'm the senior enlisted advisor for the 75th Ranger Regiment. So if people don't want to talk to me and I'm supposed to advise the commander on all matters, if I don't know any of those matters, then go find somebody else. He should probably find somebody else. And then my last 4 is accountable, and not so much like holding people accountable, but like holding myself accountable to like the Army values, the Ranger creed, accountable to our standards, the discipline. I should look like a Ranger, right? I should be fit. I should be the things that like I ask the young guys to do. That's why I'm in the gym every morning. Not as fast as those young guys anymore, but I'm still going to get after it, right, and grind it out. And I've recently added like an I to that. People tell you really it's like you should have like 3 things or 4 things because people can't remember more than that, right? And it's easy to write down. But I thought it was important to do it, so I added the I at the end for intentional. Hey, so if I'm going to go talk to I just recently went and talked to the team leader course at the 1st Ranger Battalion, Savannah, Georgia, 120 folks. I gotta think about that, and be all the A's before, but I have to be intentional about what are the things I'm going to say to them, right, at their level. I don't need to talk up here stratosphere stuff. Like what are the regimental commander's priorities mean to like the team leader? Because if you'd asked me, and sorry, General McChrystal and Sergeant Major Hall, what the regimental commander's priorities were when I was a sergeant, no idea. I probably didn't know my company commander's priorities. What I did know is like I was going to wake up every day as a team leader. I was going to train my men. They were representation to me. PT was going to be hard. I was going to hold myself and them accountable. Like I was like, I'm okay with that, right? And it was like Lieutenant Colonel Tony Thomas at the time, and as long as I could run hard, do PT, do the big 5, PT, marksmanship, mobility, small unit ranger tactics, and medical. Like as long as I could do those things like really, really well, like we're okay. But how do I take the regimental commander's priorities and like what does that mean to the specialist and sergeant? Like and clearly articulate that so I'm down at like meet them where they're at. Because I don't expect them to be strategic level thinkers. I don't want them to be strategic level thinkers. I want them to be meat eaters. I want them to be Ranger team leaders, right? And they're the best at it, right?
You've got your 4 A's in your I.
I added the I. Yeah.
I like it, though. It's a really positive one, especially the I part of it, because you're right. It's so important. Yeah. We actually did a podcast on living an intentional life because we thought it was so important.
That's right.
But with the former Ranger, actually.
Yeah. That was part of the podcast.
Yeah.
But I do have a question around, like, if you're thinking of leadership, what are the traits that you find that have not only that served you well, but you find are important being a leader out there to others?
Yeah.
And they may fit within your 4 A's and I.
I think a lot of it fits within our 4. Like, I remember coming into the 3rd Battalion, they said, hey, Sergeant Major, what are your pet peeves? Every Sergeant Major's got pet peeves, right? I was like, I don't have any. I said, yeah, I got one. They were like, walking on the grass kind of, like haircut type stuff. I'm like, no. I'm like, all those things are important. Grass, less so much. I don't care about that much. Haircuts, I care about. But in context. So I look at like traits in leaders, and same thing stands true when I talked to them that day. I said, what bothers me and when leaders don't do leader things. Right, and I was like, and there's two. When you see somebody not doing that, it's either out of ignorance, and so they don't know, or defiance. One of those two.
Incompetence or defiance. Yeah, I like defiance probably better.
Yeah, ignorance and defiance. Right. Like, I'm too good for that. I'm too cool for that, or whatever. So I'm not going to do it, or I'm ignorant, and so my approach is always the same to that leader, but. Depending on the response, then they get they solicit a different response to me, whether it's illicit or ignorant or defiant. The traits is like, again, like, 600-20 in the Army, states all those things, leader attributes and characteristics. They got it right? But I think I kind of lay it out pretty good with my 4 A's, but you can see compassion in leaders every day. We promoted or appointed Justin Malone to Sergeant Major today, and I talked about watching him when he came to 1st Ranger Battalion in April 2006 as a young private, and now I get to appoint him to Sergeant Major today. And you could see, even as like a young E4 to sergeant, his compassion and caring for like leaders. The sergeant major of the Army, when he stepped in, Sergeant Major Garrison, when he stepped in, he started this thing called Tim's. This is my squad. And I remember thinking, and I was a CSM when he was there, I was like, why is the sergeant major of the Army talking about squads? And then like you hear him talk about like knowing your squad, like their strengths and weaknesses, family dynamics, how they respond to you. And, because it's just like kids. My oldest son, I could say, I'm disappointed in you. He'll never do it again. My youngest son, I can say, I'm disappointed in you. And he's like, cool. Hold my beer, watch this. Yes. And when you're a squad leader, that's 9 other souls that like respond differently. So, and then I just saw the genius in that. So when you talk about the traits and characteristics of leaders, I think like the compassion to like take care of others, put your ego aside, like, cause you want like the youngest guy to be better than you are when they reach your position. And if everyone has that like end state in mind, this whole world would be in a better place. Yeah. Not just our Army, like every single doorway should say, leave your ego at the door, forget your ego, right? Like it doesn't matter. Like we're all not going to be here one day. I'm going to take off this uniform. Someone's going to bury me in the dirt. What did I leave behind? A bunch of people that think I'm a jerk and what not to do? Or did I like inspire people to be great? Because the human dynamics are just, humans are crazy awesome. You just have to give them that venue.
I think what people gave you is the knowledge of paying it forward, and it sounds like that's kind of what you're trying to do, right?
Like the entire,
I have a shirt that says that.
Yeah. See, there.
I swear to God. MWR gave it to me, but they put my name on the back, and I was like, I can't wear my name on the back of the shirt.
That doesn't.
Cool shirt. I was trying to like etch it off, but I wear it at the house where I'm working out. Yeah.
So, all right. So we've got. You were in pre 9/11, now
right.
post 20-year war.
That's right.
Different armies, in a sense, maybe different regiment. That's the question everybody wants to know. What is regiment like in these two types of environment, and what's the concern that we have about making sure we're doing the right things within the regiment here to prepare?
So I'll start from the beginning and work my way from left to right. So when I came in, it's about like now. So just like these young guys, the heroes were my leaders that I had. Some had not had any combat experience. My squad leader, Craig Bishop, didn't have any combat experience, but he was the greatest leader to emulate. And then some of the older guys were wearing some old scrolls from like Ray Devins, General Thomas, and my platoon sergeant, and some other folks that had like jumped into Panama. Like my first sergeant, who's, Rick Merritt, PJ, Chalk 4, whatever it was, right? And you looked up to those guys, and that's where we're at right now. As our Army, the Ranger Regiment is 10,000 times better than what it was 25 years ago. The special sauce hasn't changed. It's the people, right? Like, you could take away the selection process. We're not going to, right? But like take people of like-minded character that like want to get better today than they were yesterday, put them all together. You're going to have a great tight-knit organization. But you fast forward today, for a young kid that's trying to come in the 75th Ranger Regiment that's out there, the war's over. The war's never over, as some of us that have served know that like. There are still folks deployed in support of our great nation that are doing God's work. And you want to do stuff like that, come to the 75th Ranger Regiment. You'll find out. More to follow. Go through our 8-week selection, and I'll tell you more. Go get your clearance, and I'll tell you even more. And so like maybe I am that old guy now. I don't feel like it.
You don't look it either.
Thank you. But my job is to pass on those lessons learned those the things that we've done over the last 20 years, how does that bridge into the next Point to Hawk, the next Objective Rhino, the next Anaconda, the next Takugar? That's squarely where we sit. And what I will tell any leader that wants to listen, you can take as many radios, communication stuff, electronic warfare, blah blah blah, the UAS. Like, if you're not good at physical fitness, marksmanship, medical training, small unit tactics, and mobility, if that's not your focus, like when it comes to like whatever the nation's going to ask us to do, we're not going to be able to be what the nation asks us to be if we can't do those things. We're going to develop other, our nation is going to develop phenomenal things, but you see it in Ukraine right now. They're trench warfare, middle of the day, grinding it out.
Shoot, move, communicate.
Shoot,
do all
move,
the things
communicate.
correct. Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Save your buddy.
Absolutely.
And so, like, for the parents out there, like, oh man, the tip of the spear, Ranger Regiment. Why would I want to do that? Well, hey, mom and dad, this is a place where we don't skip on training. Right? There's a saying that, hey, amateurs do it till they get it right, and professionals do it till they can't get it wrong. That's like where the Ranger Regiment's at. That's where our team leaders and squad leaders are at. Like, those repetitions matter, but we're gonna do it till we can't get it wrong, and then we're gonna do it again. Right? That's where,
because it will matter.
It will matter. It will matter. And we put our money where our mouth is, not just in the training aspect, but in our Ranger for Life program, and we have a Phalanx program. So spiritually, physically, emotionally, educationally, all those things are underneath a program that, hey, but I want little Johnny to go to school. We have a program for that. You're going to college. We have embedded people that are push you along the way. Hey, at the end of your 4 or 5 or first tour or whatever, and you want to get out, we have a program that we don't want you to get out, right? We want you to stay Ranger. But if you are going to get out, the folks that are out there around the United States of America and abroad that are looking to hire Rangers is great. But it's not just about hiring a Ranger. It's about the mentorship of what I talked about previously. Hey, I don't want to let you down, and I'm going to take care of you. And so it's not just the time in uniform; it's the time out of uniform that they look after you, they mentor you, and then eventually you become a mentor.
Right.
There may be a young staff sergeant out there that mentors me when I get out on how to transition out of the Army, because hey, he's already done it.
Yep. You're right.
Who knows more about transition? Not me.
Exactly.
Right? That's why I'm not, hey, we got a program for it, but I'm not in charge of it. I'll tell you when I'm done, right?
Right.
But yeah, it's, this organization cares about its people. When we talk about the Army, number one priority is people first. The regimental commander's number one priority is people first. I would say that we do that. We do that. We care for our folks. We put our money where our mouth is, not just in training, but home station as well. And do the best we can every single day for America's sons and daughters in the 75th Ranger Regiment. That's what we do.
There has been a toll because of the 20-year war and everything that's placed on not only members that are still on active duty, but those that have transitioned. Mm-hmm. I know you guys have got some really great programs, and I'd love for you to share more about how the command is supporting that within the regiment, because there was a stigma.
Sure.
In the very early days across all of Army, right? But I think that's made a vast improvement. I think people are very curious to know, how do you take care, much like you were just describing, your soldiers? But then you may also give some insight perhaps into even some of those that's transitioned out, how they might be able to also find that sense of tribe and those things that you've served well here within the regiment.
Great question. We have what's called our holistic health assessment. So we think there's like this teeter point of, like, at the platoon sergeant level where, so you come back through our selection. So like as an enlisted guy, you come through RASP 1, You're a member of this organization. And then, we realized there wasn't another check, right? There wasn't a check on you as a person, like from an enterprise perspective. So in RASP, we just a couple years ago, not me, it wasn't my idea. So we got great people. We just implement and iterate and make it better. We put in a holistic health assessment so it's like no big deal. How do you destigmatize these things? It's like we're going to put it in our selection, and when you're coming through, you're going to go through our holistic health assessment. And it's not to weed you out. So like identify chinks in the armor so we can, put you back in and hammer them back out and get them a little bit better before we put you back in and to lead our Rangers again. And it's no big deal. It's no big deal. Like, hey, maybe we have to take you offline. Hey, you graduated the course, but maybe we have to take you offline for like 6 months to work some stuff out. We're not going to put you back through the course. We'll just make sure check and balances are good, oil change, right? Tires rotated, and then put you back out there and lead Ranger, because our Rangers deserve the best leadership. So we do that, and then you're going to go back again before you're a first sergeant. No, by the way, if you get selected for the CSM, congratulations. But you're going to go back through this executive portion, and you're still going to get run through the gauntlet again, right? Because it's important. Yeah. It's important, and I think that's a model that you see now in the Army for the Battalion Commander Assessment Program. It's kind of modeled off of our intermediate level education, our ILE RASP that we run, and then our selection program. So it's like, hey, is the Army selecting the best battalion commanders and then brigade commanders? And then now they're starting to do it for the Sergeant Major Assessment Program. Hey, are we putting the best Sergeant Majors in the position to lead alongside those battalion or brigade commanders? It's, in my opinion, awesome. Because if someone comes up to you and says like, hey, we're gonna check you, right? Somebody, you're like, oh man, right? But if it's routine, then it's just like, this is what we've always done, right? And it is what it is. Yeah. But you have to show that we're willing to take care of you and not fire you.
Yeah, it's not just invasive. It is information at this point.
Yeah.
You're not just digging into somebody to dig into them. You're learning something about them to help them, to bolster them as a professional. Yeah,
because I'm not great. Like, I'm not the greatest thing since sliced bread. And I want that feedback. I want people to say like, hey, this is what you said. This is what we're doing. This is how we think you could do it better. And like I said earlier, leave your ego at the door. Because if you're not trying to get yourself better every day and learn from all walks of life and professionals who are obviously doing that for you, it's probably time to hang it up and go do something else. Right? So that's part of some of the things that we do within our formation. I think we got it right with our cognitive coaches, our strength coaches, our chaplains, our military family life counselors. I know I'm missing our athletic trainers, co-locating most of them together. So I see Brett working out. He's been happy. He's been getting after it. Hey, he's kind of been bumming around. Who am I going to talk to? Am I talk to the chaplain? I'll probably end up talking to the strength coach first, right? And then the strength coach is like, hey, Brett's he's been sucking a little bit. And kind of, hey, why don't you come in and talk, right? Well, I'm totally going to go do that. But like, as you consolidate those things, you see those folks talk and you can.
They develop a team.
That's right. Yeah. And it's just the special sauce and where you put people matters. So that's done pretty well. Obviously, if I had it my way, I would have 10,000 more of those people. I'd have one per squad. I'd have one per company, right? Because they're worth their weight in gold. Physical therapists, getting our folks back. We got some people that have served this organization for a long time that are just our civilian staff. All those things like that are just what makes this place so great, and they're special to us as well.
I think what you've outlined there's been discussion in other formats and stuff where people have said, we do a great job building up the soldier by getting them through basic the right way, advanced training, what they learn within the unit and everything else. But we don't do a great job necessarily in helping them through getting out of the service in the same type of intensity. What you've done is said, no, we're going to do that because we recognize that through that process, there's going to be normal wear and tear that's going to take place.
That's right.
Changing the oil, tires, whatever the case. And so you start
maybe even a paint job. You stay here 25 years, right?
True. Yeah. So you did the right thing, and how you just laid that out. No, it has to start in the very beginning. It has to be part of the fabric, part of the thread of the organization. So then people don't notice it's evasive, because it's not evasive. It's normal.
If you ever run a company, a business, an Army unit, whatever, there's two things you must do very well outside of like your core tasks. Whether you're selling paper like Dunder Mifflin, or you're like shooting and jumping out of airplanes like the Ranger Regiment. If you don't onboard your personnel and have a thoughtful onboarding, everything like nuts to bolt. What does it look like day one when you show up? Who's briefing? Who's saying what? Like in your unit, not installation, not like big Dunder Mifflin, right? But in your stuff, if you don't have that, you're losing day one. Imagine like being the guy that's like, you're supposed to show up and get on the computer day one. You don't even have a computer. No one's around. No one even knows who you are because they didn't even know you got hired, right? I mean, there's so many pitfalls with that. So like, you have to have that. We have that. We continue to refine it every single day. Nothing's perfect, right? We continue to work on that. That is in our guidance to every single battalion command team, is you will have we call it RSOI, Reception Stage and Armor Movement Integration. That's what the Army calls it, another acronym. And then you have to have, you have to offboard folks, off-ramp folks appropriately. You have to. What feedback mechanism do you get? Because if I asked you for feedback on the way in, you'd be like, this is the greatest place in the world. Even though like your integration was horrible, because you're not going to tell your boss that your integration was horrible. You're just ready to get to work and hope you not get fired. Mm-hmm. But like on the way out, feedback's free, right? So like, what kind of feedback are you getting about your formation that you can make it better? And what systems you have to make your formation better? And then, oh man, like here's a person that just spent 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, whatever, 4 years, I don't care. And what are they doing next, and how can I make them better and prepare them for their next stage of their life, whatever that may be? Why wouldn't we do that? Because that person's going to go out to wherever they're going to live. Hey, you served in the Ranger Regiment. What was it like? Narratives, yours to tell. Right? So it's super important. It's super important, and try to do the best we can every single day doing that, because we're a people business.
Yeah. No, you're taking care of what you're describing is taking care of the soldier.
That's right.
You know,
that's right.
Inside, outside, the holistic approach, taking care of the soldier, because it's an important.
Yeah, we're gonna rip them away from their spouse, and no notice. Put their phones in a bag and tell them they can't use it, and you may not talk to them for a couple months. So we may want to have some systems in place to make sure we receive these our new members appropriately, get them all the things and systems and processes they need in the event that we rip them out and they don't get to see their loved one for a long time.
Yep.
I got to remind my wife, like, hey, babe, I'm still on the hook. You know, I may get blown out and have to do something. This is how you pay the bills, right? You know, it's all good.
So we're going to switch gears for a second. Somebody who remembers you from the past, of course, first talked about how great of a leader that you are, and how you made an impression.
I already know who you're talking about. I already gave him $20 to tell me I'm not going to give me more money.
But they did ask for you to share some great stories, deep back in history. They said, for history's sake. So what comes to mind?
There's a bunch of stories that I shouldn't tell. There's a bunch of stories I should tell. I'll give you one that's pretty funny. Combat related, but still funny enough. So I got a platoon leader that I have. We'll call him Stu. Stu is my platoon leader. I trusted him explicitly. He trusted me. I had 4 phenomenal squad leaders that have gone on to do phenomenal things. In their Army career. Just retired one of them 2 weeks ago, after 20 some odd years. Phenomenal guy. We're in this town in eastern Iraq. So we're going in to get one bad guy at one house, in and out. We're going to offset. The helicopters silently walk in. Everybody wants to go to the X and smash it and rock and roll. Hey, the cops are bad in this town. super bad town. There's a firefight there the day before. You got to go get this guy, yada, yada, yada. Okay. So we offset our helicopters. We start walking in. The streets are real narrow, 2-story buildings along both sides. And right before we get to the building, there's like this rock pile, and it's like probably 2:00 in the morning. And typically you use the, cover of darkness, the middle of the night. Everyone's asleep. Sneak in, little snatch and grab, rock and roll, be good to go. Not on this one. Everyone's awake. Everyone's awake. We're posted up in an L shape outside of this person's house. And I'm like, oh man, my platoon leader's like 1 block over. He can see me. He can see my team leader climb on top of the, their outhouses on the outside. The lady who, that lived in the house, walks out and goes into the bathroom. And she's like going to the bathroom while he's laying on top with his gun. My platoon leader's like, hey, what are we doing? What are we doing? I'm like, shh, hang on. So I grabbed the terp, and I'm sitting there looking and thinking, and I was like, nothing is going to go well here. Bad town, bad cops. There's cops are like, posted up right around the corner. We know that they're bad through intelligence that we got the firefight there that morning. So I was like, all right. I grabbed my terp and I said, hey, I want you to ring the doorbell. He's like, you want me to do what? So I want you to ring the doorbell. And when the guy comes to the door and he opens it, because he's going to open it, because that's, Americans would tell you to go away. Muslims are like, open up the door and like to invite you inside if you're another Muslim, right? So he opens up the door, get out of the way. And he's like, oh, I got you, Sergeant J. I'm like, all right, sweet. So I tell the squad leaders, and then in the command net, my PL's like, hey, what are you doing? I was like, hey, hang on. I was like, you guys got this? Good. Hey, we're going to ring the doorbell. Right? And he's like, you're going to do what? He's like, the jock's calling. I think, I want to say it was now General Menace was the battalion commander at the time. So Brian Menace. I'm like 100% sure. Yeah, absolutely. And so they're calling like, hey, what the heck is Charlie Company 2nd Platoon doing right now? And so the guy, they started watching on overhead. They watched this guy come out. They watched the door open up. They watched him get smoked, punched, right? And then we bum rushed the house. So that was the dad or whatever. He was not collaborating with the other guy. We get the targeted individual. We get the guy, wrap it all up. And as we're doing that, it was super quiet. The wife didn't scream. She, typically if they were screaming, it was like, probably, they were probably bad, but if they weren't screaming, they were like, I told my husband he should have done that stuff anyway, right? So like, and then I'd look, so like that was super successful. I think my PL, Stu, love him to death. I think he was like, you're crazy. I can't believe we're doing this. Like, I was like, I got this. Just trust me. I thank him to this day for trusting me. I thank my squad leaders and the NCOs out there for like trusting me as well. And like, thinking outside the box. Cause like, I think today, like, sometimes we put ourselves in this is the way we have to do it. And then the best part was, as we're wrapping it all up, about to move on out of there, I look over and there's one of my squad leaders. I'll call him Austin. And he's sitting down and he's on the computer in the house. That they had a computer in there, and that's why they were all up around. And I'm like, what are they doing? They were literally playing U.S. Army Rangers on the computer.
No, they weren't.
Can't make it up. You can't make it up. They weren't playing Navy SEALs. Right? They were playing U.S. Army Rangers on there, and I was like, no, it's not. He's like, look. I was like, that's pretty incredible. We got to go. Let's go. So wrapped everything up, went out of the house. We go back, land in Baghdad. And as we land the helicopters, I'm looking, and I'm like, oh, man, that's the battalion commander. And I think First Sergeant Albertson was Sergeant Major Albertson, First Sergeant Albertson. And he's like, hey, the battalion commander wants to talk to you. I'm like, uh-oh. He's like, hey, what did you do? All we saw was like, yada, yada, yada. I was like, sir, I rang the doorbell. He's like, no, you didn't. I was like, can't make it up. I was like, and they were playing U.S. Army Rangers on the computer when we went in. He's like, no, they weren't. I was like, yes, they were. Rangers did the way, got the TI, moved out, went back to our base, and called it a night.
There's going to be a new module now in the game where you ring the doorbell and you get
That's right. That's right. And somebody comes up and then it's like a cross between like U.S. Army Rangers and Grand Theft Auto. Don't support it. Right?
Oh, that's a great story.
Yeah,
so what's your favorite book that you've either reading or that you've read?
Two. So Code Over Conduct. Pretty incredible. I won't spoil it, but it's about accountability and culture.
Okay.
Really, really good. Really, really good. Second one is the All Blacks. It's like
the rugby team, the
yes,
All Blacks.
Yeah,
okay, like the New Zealand All Blacks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like the winningest team on the face of the planet.
Like the Haka
What's the name of the book?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Just awesome, and you can take that model and put it to anything, and it works. It's like really, really good. But Code Over Country is a newer one that's pretty incredible.
Definitely check that out. I'm always looking for new books, leadership, and I'm sure others are as well. So.
That's a good one.
Okay.
That's a good one.
Definitely take your word for it.
Yeah.
So what would you say to our listeners or even those that are watching who are thinking about coming to the regiment? Why should they?
Why wouldn't you?
Simple enough.
Yeah. I was a young man looking for adventure, looking for some discipline, didn't really know what I wanted. What I found was like so much more than that. I walk amongst giants every single day. I learned how to be a man. Not that my father didn't teach me how to be a man, but I learned how to win in the face of adversity. I have friends that I'll call friends for the rest of my life, and it's a place where your service and sacrifice is honored every single day, and we honor those that have come before us. I'll say this: I walked into the gym yesterday, our Human Performance Training Center. Walked in there, and there's the Special Troops Battalion, Sergeant Major Smith leading the way, and he's got a hero workout. So one of our fallen up on there. And there's about 40 people in there doing their movement prep before they do this really tough, gritty workout. And then he brings everybody around and talks about the young Ranger who was killed in action in 2009. And then they go about their day.
Wow.
And you get to live amongst people like that every single day. Why wouldn't you want to be here? It's a phenomenal place.
Sergeant Major, we appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule coming in here to share your words of wisdom.
You guys have been great.
Well, thank you so much. And we look forward to another opportunity, actually, where we maybe sit down with you and talk about the upcoming transition.
Yeah.
Because one day it's coming.
It is coming.
Maybe we can help out with that.
That'd be great.
Thanks so much again.
Yeah, thank you. Rangers lead the way.